Hi, and welcome back to Ghosties. I'm Macy,
And I'm Natalie.
and today we have a topic that's highly anticipated between Natalie and I. We have been talking about it since we began this podcasting journey. It's Black-Eyed Children.
I watched a documentary, as we've said in the past. I always stay up till 4 or 5 a.m. And I would watch Discovery documentaries or infomercials, mostly infomercials. But Discovery documentaries, there was this one about Black-Eyed Children, and I have been afraid of kids ever since.
Just children in general? Okay.
Yep. All of them.
Understandable.
Because I don't know if you found this, but because all I remember is that the kids would come to the door and be like, "Can you let us in?" And if you let them in, I don't know what happens, but if you let them in,
Bad
done.
things. Yep.
And it always freaked me out. And so anytime there's kids in the neighborhood, I'm like, if they come to this door, I'm not opening it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. Since I first heard about Black-Eyed Children, I fear my door ringing.
Oh, I thought you were saying I fear my children.
Not my children. Something about, and we talked about this in our previous episode about children and ghosts, but something connecting children and the paranormal in any way just
It's dark.
freaks me out. I can't get behind it. I don't like it. Today, our tea was recommended by someone who's watched our video. They commented. Shout out to Daniel.
Woo!
He said that we should try the Bigelow brand tea caramel apple. So that is what we're trying. It smells delicious and I can't wait.
I know. Thank you so much for recommending.
Thanks, Daniel.
Recommend some more, please. Okay, let's try it.
So that was great. It was so good. You could taste the apple. You could taste the caramel.
It's a caramel apple.
Pretty self-explanatory. It was really good though.
It actually does taste really good. I get really disappointed when something's like chocolate cinnamon swirl and then it tastes like a crayon. I get really sad.
Yeah.
So this is it. This is a good one.
This is good. I will definitely be drinking this more often, I think. So on to Black-Eyed Children. There are a few stories that claim to date back many decades, but the legend of Black-Eyed Children had its first widespread reporting on the internet in around 1998, I believe. Is by a reporter named Brian Bethel in Abilene, Texas. He first posted about it in some kind of forum where I don't know exactly.
Reddit?
Some people say it was kind of like an early, not Reddit, but like a kind of Reddit. But then where I found it was in an email chain, basically where they emailed mass to a bunch of people and it was kind of like a chat. But it was 98, so I don't really know what website or what exactly they were using.
I was going to say, when you said a chain, the only chain emails or messages I think of are do this 3 times that this boy will appear under your bed tonight.
Yeah.
Woo, send to 10 people.
Oh, yeah.
I used to send all of them.
I did too. And because I was so terrified, I remember the first one I ever got. So I had a flip phone and I don't remember who sent it to me, but someone I went to school with sent me, and it was this picture of this demon girl. I think she might have had black eyes. I don't remember exactly, but it was the scariest image my 12-year-old self could even conjure up, and it was awful. And it was told the story of this girl, and it was send to 3 friends or she will appear and gouge your eyes out or something.
Yes,
and it was, I still think about it.
And I would send them. I'd be like, "Oh, this isn't real. Okay, send to Macy, send to Kayla, send to Mom." I would send it to everybody.
Yeah. Oh, especially when I was younger. Not so much as I got older. What happened to that? That just kind of died out. I mean, I'm glad.
That stuff is still on Facebook, though.
But anyway, back to the actual topic at hand. That's where I wanted to start today, was with Brian Bethel. So his story goes like this. It was on a summer evening in 1996 when Brian was sitting in his car and he was filling out a check to pay his internet bill. He was parked outside the old office, he said, and there was a drop box there that you can put after hours, pay your bills, put your checks and whatever in the drop box.
Internet office or the post office?
In the internet office.
Oh, okay.
It was in kind of like a strip center, and there was also a dollar theater up there. So he was kind of sitting, it was late, it was kind of getting dark. He was sitting in the light of the marquee at the movie theater, just filling out, not paying attention to anything. As he finished writing up his check, he noticed a light knock on his car window on the driver's side. It startled him, since he hadn't noticed anyone outside before, but he looked up and noticed that there were 2 young boys staring at him through the glass. The children looked to be somewhere between the ages of 10 and 14 and were completely normal, dressed in just hoodie and pants. So I guess not super normal because it's summer and they're wearing hoodies.
No,
Okay, never mind. That's
I'm like,
normal.
I'll wear a hoodie all the time.
I wore a hoodie every day of 7th grade.
I was about to say, me too.
Something about that age. But anyway, one of the boys was slightly taller than the other, and he was the one that was doing all the talking. So the younger boy said nothing this whole experience. He said the older one exuded an air of quiet confidence, and the other boy stood beside him and didn't say a word the whole time, only looking nervously as if he had a feeling of both guilt and confusion. Brian immediately thought they were there to ask him for money, but for some reason, a wave of panic and fear just washed over him as he looked at the children.
Me.
In every situation.
Yes.
He was confused by the feeling of his blood just running cold, considering it was only a couple of young kids. I mean, obviously, he's a grown man. He could overpower them. He's in a car. He could just drive away. But
I thought you were going to say you could run them over. I was like, yeah.
Oh my God. No, he could just drive away happily without causing any violence. But anyway, he felt awful. He just felt instinctively that something wasn't right, and he couldn't put his finger on it. The taller boy smiled at him and prompted Brian to roll down his window, but he only rolled it down very slightly. It's kind of like what do you
a
want?
little crack, yeah.
So the boy smiled even bigger, seeing that he kind of got his in. And in a calm, quiet voice that seemed very articulate, said, "Hey, mister, what's up? We have a problem. You see, my friend and I want to see the film, but we forgot our money. We need to go to our house to get it. Want to help us out?" Still, the feeling of this intense urge to run was overwhelming Brian at this point. And he was just like, well, kind of not knowing what to say. Brian noted that the way this kid spoke to a complete stranger was odd. Just walking up and complete confidence, not like a typical young teenager would.
Oh, like kids are like, if you're eating something, they're like, well, I like that.
Yeah.
And so he's outright saying,
well, and it's even
take
to
us
a
and help us.
stranger. Yeah. He just walked up and he was like, "This is what we need from you."
Oh.
Yeah. So that also gave him the heebie-jeebies. He just had this big smile and a lack of hesitation behind his words. And Brian said it was as if he was trying to say, "I know something and you're not going to like it, but the only way you're going to find out what it will be is to do what I say."
Oh.
So the boy said, "Come on, mister. We just want to go to our house and we're just two little boys." The emphasis on what was supposed to be perceived as innocence by the boys was alarming to Brian. As alarming to me.
Yeah. What the heck?
He could only stutter out the question of what movie the boys actually wanted to see. And when they answered Mortal Kombat, that's when Brian realized that it was in the middle of the movie. Like the movie had already started. So he was like, by the time we got you to your house, even in a small town like Abilene, by the time they drove to the house and came back, the movie would be basically over. They'd missed the whole thing. But the boy was persistent and he kept saying, "Let us in. Let us in." He said, "We can't get into your car until you do."
Oh, no.
He said, "Just let us in and we'll be gone before you know it. We'll go to our mother's house." As Brian's hand, as if on its own volition, was making its way to unlock the doors, he immediately realized what he was doing, pulled his hand back and made eye contact with the boy. And that's when he noticed it was just black eyes.
It's so scary. I know this is probably not even that scary for people listening, but for me,
You've got a deep-rooted
it is
fear.
something so personal, like such a personal fear, because I watched this because when I was younger, I didn't watch scary stuff. And I sat and I was like, I could watch this alone, in the dark, in the living room.
I don't even remember this.
Because you weren't there. I was by myself. I watched it.
No, I don't remember you talking about it.
Because I didn't want to talk about it.
You just never spoke of it again.
After that show, I literally, it was one of those nights where I put the covers completely over my head and I was just like, and just stayed there until I passed out, until there was daylight.
Yeah.
It scared me so deep in my core. And it was
I've had those moments.
It was something about like, let us in.
Yeah.
Oh, I just got chills just saying that.
Sorry.
It freaks me out so bad.
The whole time I was doing all this research, I just waves of goosebumps
'Cause,
just
like,
over my arms.
Imagine like
No.
a kid coming to your door and being like, "Hey, I'm lost. Can you let me in?" You're not gonna think, "Let me see your eyes. Like, look at me." You're just gonna be like, "Oh my God,
Kid
come
needs help.
in."
Yeah.
Not
It's
me.
the innocence of it.
I'll be like, "Sit down on the porch. I'll call 911." And
Yeah.
if they run, they run. Not my problem.
Yeah.
Well,
They don't usually run. Anyway.
Exactly.
But we'll get into it a little.
exactly. Wait. What?
They don't run away, is what I mean. And we'll get
Children
into it.
or black-eyed children?
Black-eyed children.
Okay, I don't know anything else.
Okay,
I'm
we'll get into
scared.
it. We'll get into it. Okay, so back to Brian. He saw the eyes. Panic washed over him. And the smaller of the two boys realized that something in their plan had gone wrong. You could see it on his face. The taller boy became enraged, saying more aggressively this time, "Come on, mister. We won't hurt you. You have to let us in. We don't have a gun." Just like that's gonna help.
Thanks. In that case.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Let me unlock the doors. No. Brian felt as if his tone meant more so, we don't need a gun. Which sent him over the edge. So Brian reached for the gear shift to put his car in reverse. And the taller boy, now banging on his window as he rolled it up, and said again with anger and panic in his voice, "We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay. Let us in."
Oh my God.
Brian reversed out of the parking lot without looking behind him and just in a state of desperation, basically drove away. And he realized in his rearview mirror that the boys were just gone. There was nowhere for them to run either. They just had disappeared. They vanished.
I'm sick. We just started. I'm sick to my stomach.
I'm sorry.
This is scaring me more than I thought it was.
I'm
too
very happy.
I'm really freaked out.
Anyway.
And I'm scared that it's just my own personal fear and that I'm alone and that I'm just kind of weird and I have like my niche fear.
No, we all have things that we're afraid of. I'm sure you're not alone in this. I am not as afraid of these, but I have my fears.
Okay.
I have my things. So several months after Brian experienced his encounter with these black-eyed kids, a friend of his from the online forum.
I would say black-eyed peas.
Okay. Side note, the entire time I was doing research on this, every other article and thing that would pop up was about black-eyed peas, be it the pea, the black-eyed pea, the bean, or the band. So it was. I was sifting through food and pop singers this whole time.
You said like really quick. You said black-eyed kids. I was like, it caught me off guard because I thought you were gonna be like black-eyed children. When you say kids, it just was like.
Yeah, some people call them black-eyed kids or BEKs for short online. So, something I learned. Anyway, a friend of his who hadn't seen Brian's previous post posted something similar and was asking people if they'd ever had an experience like this. His friend John claimed to have been in downtown Portland, Oregon, late one night for some kind of seminar for his job. His friend Doug came up to his window in the car afterwards, asking to get into his car because his vehicle in the parking garage was surrounded by people and he didn't feel safe going into it.
Oh.
So John thought maybe it was, I don't know, some vagrants or, I don't know, troublemakers around his car or adults, really.
Yeah.
So he was like, yeah, sure, get in. And they drove around for a little bit and they ended up driving up to the parking garage to check out, see if his car was open and not being surrounded anymore. But there were 3 kids standing by the doors, just waiting, like leaned up against the car, almost waiting. There was a girl who looked about 15 years old, a boy who looked around 14, and another boy who looked to be around 11. John had a bad feeling just wash over him at the sight of the kids. But by this time, the kids had noticed them and raced over to John's car with Doug in it. And they're in a parking garage, so they can't just race out of there.
No.
John asked them what they were doing around Doug's car, and they just said, "It's scary out there all alone, and we just want to ride home." So just like really speaking to, not to you, I guess, but to other people's hearts. When John refused, they looked at Doug and said, "You promised to help us out." Though Doug said he didn't know the kids at all, he still began to reach for the car door as if he was getting out. He was going to get out. The kids were giving him the creeps, and the way that Doug changed his demeanor so quickly just set him on edge. It was almost like he was in a trance, just like going to get out of the car. John put the car in reverse and peeled out of the parking garage and claimed that he had seen one of the kids down by the entrance. But there was no way for them to have gotten there that fast. So they just drove around for a little bit, hoping that they would go away and hoping that he didn't actually see one of the kids beat him down. And waited to go back to Doug's car. On this drive around, Doug had apparently told him that he met the younger of the boys, or younger of the group, before the conference and gave him a ride to that building. So let him in his car and gave him a ride to the building. And he told the young boy that he would give him a ride home after the seminar. But he hadn't met the other 2 kids before and didn't know that the other 2 kids were with him.
What did the kid need a ride for? Is
I
he
don't
part
know.
of the seminar?
I don't know.
Like,
it didn't describe, it didn't say.
But like, why would you just pick up a kid?
Well, because most people see a child in the middle of the street and like they need help. I would probably.
I'd call an Uber and say, anywhere you're going, go ahead.
You call an Uber for a 10-year-old boy?
Yeah. I was going to say no, but when I really think about it, yeah.
Okay.
Because
well, they wouldn't get to you then.
What am I going to do?
Drive them where they need to? Drive them to a police station? I don't know. Help them?
You know,
that's the disarming thing about this.
I do think about it, like whenever I'm driving home, like through a neighborhood, and I see like kids walking home from school, I'm like, I just want to pick them up and take them to their house. But then I'm like, I would be a freak if I pulled over and said, need a ride.
Yeah,
like,
that's a little creepy.
That's weird. But like, I do think about that. Like if I see them, I'm like, they got a long walk. Like, I think
if one walked up to you and said, hey, it's really cold out here. Can I please get in?
Like, no, but I have a jacket in my car and you can just take
my house
it.
is right down the street.
I'd say, no, there's a jacket in the back. You can just take it. And I'd throw it out the window and I'd drive away. Yes. I'd be like, oh, over there. And then I'd run or drive away really fast.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not letting you in my car. I'm sorry.
Well, then they wouldn't get to you. So you have nothing to worry about. So once they felt it was safe to return back to Doug's car.
Wait, I say this, but every time I see a stray dog, I'm like, come here.
Yeah.
And I put it in the back of my car.
Yeah.
What does that
Hopefully
say about
we
me?
never have to find out if you actually would or not. John took Doug back to his car, which was completely alone now. Not even really any cars in the garage anymore because it was so late. And John kind of followed him out of the garage and they were kind of going in the same direction back home. A few streets down from the parking garage, Doug went through a yellow light that had turned red and didn't quite make it, and a car T-boned him and it was a fatal crash.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So after Doug.
R.I.P. Doug.
Oh my God.
So obviously John had to stay. He just witnessed this horrific accident, had to give a police report. But when he got back in his car to drive home, he swears that 2 blocks away, he saw the kids standing there, still late at night, staring at him as he drove on.
I just felt everything in my brain explode. That hurt.
I'm sorry.
I can see it.
Yeah, I've got chills now again.
I really thought like the last episode scared me, but like I didn't think this one was gonna freak me out as bad. I was wrong. I'm freaked out.
I knew this one would freak you out.
I'm sorry. I just don't even have anything to say when you tell me things that really scare me. I just get like, you know, I just like my brain is just like, it feels like it like melts all the way down to my toes. Like it's like, and like I want to have a reaction and say something to add, but I'm just,
yeah, just full of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all right. I kind of like it. The black-eyed children, which I said also called BEKs, are something of a mystery. Nobody really can pinpoint where they came from or what they even are. Really.
Or what they want.
What we do know from people's experiences is that they present themselves as children, typically between the ages of 6 and 16. They usually have lighter skin and obviously the jet black eyes. They almost always come into contact with people on their doorstep, outside their car, or seemingly hitchhiking, and it's always at nighttime. The children typically look very normal, despite their eyes, obviously, but you don't notice that at first. Like everyone claims they don't notice the eyes until it's almost too late, kind of. They travel in groups, usually. Sometimes they're alone, but most of the time they're in groups of 2 to 3.
Yeah.
And there's always an older one that does most of the talking. If not all, like in Brian's story. The spookiest thing about all of this to me is that everyone who's ever reported an encounter with a group of black-eyed children has an immediate sense of dread for no reason. They just see these kids and immediately feel like something is wrong.
And that's even more eerie because like you're not taught to be like afraid of kids. You're like, oh, they're just kids. Like you're not afraid of them.
And that's what's really like alarming to me.
Yeah, me too.
And they say that it's like palpable.
Like you just feel it in the air. You can cut it with a knife. That's
just
scary.
The sight of them sends chills through their whole body, really. And once you've been targeted by black-eyed children, they will be incredibly persistent. You'll get a knock on the door in the middle of the night or a tap on your windows, and they'll insist on gaining access to your residence. They need permission, though, it seems. All of these stories. Something really creepy about these entities, I don't even know what you would refer to them as. I refer to them as many different things because I really don't know.
What are they? Yeah.
But the really creepy thing about them is that they will tell you that they're in need. That they always have a story to appeal to your nurturing side and just like, I'm an innocent kid. Like, please, I'm lost. Can you help me call my mom? I need a ride. It's cold. Help me. And that is what freaks me out. It seems innocent, but just the overwhelming fear will just nag at you if you come into contact with them. You'll be drawn to help them, almost as if you can't control yourself, almost like a hypnotic state some of them claim to be in.
Like you're about to open the door.
But your gut will just scream at you like, this is not right, to stay away.
Oh.
Most of the stories I've come across, the people don't let them inside, but they always feel like if they'd given in or given them permission to enter, horrible things would happen to them.
Are there stories of people that have let them in? Or do we...
I mean, obviously Doug let them in the car.
There are some? You're about to tell us?
I'm going to tell you one.
Wow! I was about to say, if people have let them in, like, do we even know?
That's something,
happens?
We don't know all of them, I guess. But the majority of the stories are people not letting them in. Like, the overwhelming majority. Obviously, Doug let them in and he died.
Netflix makes so many trash movies. Why aren't they making this?
There is a movie about black-eyed children. I don't
Sorry,
remember.
that was random.
I never watched it. It was random, but it's okay. I agree. I never watched it, and I don't exactly remember what it's about. I saw it when I was doing my research, but that's something you can look into.
Okay. Well, because, like, there's a lot of movies on Netflix, and I watch them, and I'm like, girl.
Yeah.
But this is horrifying.
Yeah. And maybe it is true that we don't have many stories of people letting them in because something terrible happens to them, and they just aren't here to tell their story, which really freaks me out. But once you deny the seemingly helpless children of their needs, they can leave you alone without incident, but they can also turn more desperate and sinister, which is the really creepy one. Sometimes they'll be like, okay, and just kind of leave.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stories I read, they do not leave. They stay there until, like, kind of like they're trying to break you down.
I was about to, like, I just have this vision.
They get more angry too, which is creepy.
Yeah, I just have the vision of them, like, banging on the door, and what do you do? I'm about to cry right now. I'm so scared. As I was saying that, I felt tears come to my eyes. This is so scary.
They're usually polite, and they have, like, good manners. They usually look normal and well-groomed. And that's what's creepy, is they flip on their head. They're just like, kind, like, please, sir, let us in. It's like, you have to let us in. Just flip switch. And that, I just got chills. That just freaks me out.
I did too.
There are theories that they may have some sort of telepathic abilities as well, since they don't really speak to each other at all when they just kind of stare at each other sometimes. And it's almost like they're communicating with each other that way. And the people who feel the intense urge that begin to move to opening the door could be attributed to some kind of telepathic, like, drawing in. Yeah. And even animals have a visceral reaction to their presence. In some of the stories I read, you can tell the animals are just on edge. There are also claims that these creatures cause the same kind of electrical issues that spirits will cause in a space. So, like, technology glitching, lights going on and off, TVs, that kind of thing, which is really interesting to me.
Are they aliens?
That's a theory.
Oh, is it?
It is a theory.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all.
And another strange thing is that a lot of people say that they kind of repeat the same phrases and questions over and over again. And they have the kind of like the same, like
they only have that script.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's all they can only use these few things to say.
We need to get in. Please let us in. Can we come in?
Like, yeah, they'll give you reasons, and sometimes the reasons will change. But it's always just kind of the same thing over and over again. I am getting chills, like, over and over again here. But after experiencing these creepy children, many people have nightmares and suffer agoraphobia, which they didn't have before. And obviously some anxiety. They wonder, will they continue to haunt you if you decide to ignore them? And there have been stories of people being tracked down by them almost. Like, they see them in new towns after changing everything about their lives.
Oh my God. Yeah. But now that I think about it, you said, like, agoraphobia. I would never go outside again.
Yeah, I'd be afraid to leave my home.
I wouldn't go outside. Even if it was at night when it happened and during the day and I could peek out. What if they're just waiting around the corner?
Yeah.
I just made myself sick. I'm going to be so scared in the morning.
Yeah, I just had a really horrible visual and I didn't like.
I did too.
So I said Brian Bethel's story was the first widespread story on the internet, but I found a story that claims to have happened decades before Brian's story. It was 1950 in a small town in Virginia when a 16-year-old boy named Harold was walking home from his friend's house late one night. He had finally made it around the last turn down the dirt road that led to his home when he noticed ahead there was a young boy standing outside his house. Harold was perplexed, but at this point he wasn't concerned. He figured maybe a kid had gotten the wrong house or gotten lost on his way to meet a friend or something. And as he got closer to his house, he realized he didn't recognize the boy. And he was living in a small town, so this is odd. Like, you kind of know everybody, and you don't come across strangers, especially not young children.
No.
Harold asked the boy if he needed any help, but the boy just never replied to that. So, thinking maybe he didn't hear him, Harold asked the boy once more, a little louder, and still nothing. When Harold approached the boy, that's when he finally spoke up. But this was not a comfort to Harold. The boy told him, very matter-of-fact in his tone, "I want to go to your house. Take me to your house."
Oh my God.
The closer he got to the boy, the more Harold noticed that the hairs on his arms were standing on end, and he just couldn't explain how terrified he was of this little boy's presence.
A child.
Yeah. So Harold kind of glanced toward his house, wanting desperately to run, but as if his thoughts were spoken out loud to the boy, he said sternly and in a just dark and deep voice, "Now don't you run away from me. You're going to walk me to your house." And then he reached for Harold's arm to kind of
like, "Oh, I'm coming with you?"
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's when Harold noticed the boy's dark, cavernous eyes, or lack thereof. I'm not sure. That's another thing. I don't know if it's completely black eyes or it's just always nighttime and there's no eyes, but it's always really dark and just
I've always heard, the one story I've heard, what I imagined was like, it's like the eyeballs that we have, just totally
glazed
black.
over black.
Just no whites, no colors, no nothing. It's just a black eye.
Yeah. Knowing that it was now or never, Harold bolted towards his front door without looking behind him. But as he reached the door, a blood-curdling scream came from behind him. It sounded like a mountain lion roaring, just loud, high-pitched, and frightening, really.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't glance back, and he ran through the door and locked it behind him, just almost in tears.
Yeah.
His parents heard the commotion at the front door and came running to see Harold with just the look of pure terror and fear on his face. And after finally catching his breath, he explained to his mom and dad what he'd just experienced. His father walked outside to investigate, believing his son couldn't be faking because he was the fear was visceral.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nobody out there. No sign of a young boy, not even footprints, nothing. Except for Harold's coming up the road.
What do they want?
They want in.
For what?
I don't know. His mother brought him to the local clergy the next day because they believed that nothing of this world could have been responsible for what Harold had experienced.
Yeah.
And his family never saw or heard anything like that again. And they were just kind of left to wonder the rest of their lives.
That would drive me insane.
Yeah.
Like, actually insane. That's so scary.
What would get me is wondering if they'll ever come back.
If they'll be back. They'll be like, "Hey, Harold." That's so scary.
Don't use my name. Yeah, I don't like that. But all I could think of really the entire time, because I do most of my research at night, and all I could think of was, please God, don't let somebody knock on my door. If someone knocked on my door, I would probably, you'd never see me again. We would just never do this again.
No.
I obviously would not look outside my house.
No.
But yeah, we would stop immediately because, the thought of that just gets me.
To me, this is the scariest one we've done so far, and it's freaking me out the most because all the other ones I'm like scary in the moment, but after you leave, I get over it.
Yeah.
Except going outside and walking you to your car freaks me out.
Mm-hmm.
But once I'm in and I kind of have time to settle, I'm not scared. I think I'm going to be really scared. I think I'm going to be scared to be home alone.
It's probably because you have this deep-rooted, it was embedded in you from your childhood fear of them.
I really do.
And it's just something that's always nagged at you.
But I haven't really thought about them in a while or had the fear of what if someone knocks on my door? Recently, the census lady was knocking at my door. I didn't know it was the census lady, but she parked in front of my house in an old car, came and knocked on my door, and I just turned the TV off and I was real quiet. The dogs were barking and I peeped out the thing. She was just standing there, staring at the door, waiting, and she waited for 10 minutes. And I said,
that's her job. So of course, what's she gonna do? Pace around?
I took a picture of her car and I sent it to Ryan, and I was like, if anything happens to me,
this is her.
It was this woman. And I took a picture of her car, and then she stuck something in the door, and I pulled it out. It was just hi, I'm with the census. Please fill this out. And I was like, oh,
that's hilarious.
But
yeah, I don't answer my door.
Me neither.
I don't.
And I won't ever.
Sorry.
Even if I'm expecting you, I changed my mind. Just don't come in.
I'm not home anymore. I've mentioned before, nobody truly knows the origins of black-eyed children, but there are plenty of theories. Some people believe that these mysterious children could be extraterrestrial, as you said. They could
That's why the TV and stuff messes up.
Lots of
Ooh.
freaky things around technology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they could just be aliens trying to understand people or abduct people in their homes.
Oh.
Apparently, I don't know too much about alien abductions and stuff, but apparently that happens sometimes. Like they come to your house. I don't know. That's what one of the articles I read. If you know, let us know because I don't.
I just always assumed you had to be standing in a field next to a cow and they just like whoop, like beam you up. That's really scary.
I don't know why that was so funny to me. You just never think to yourself, I'll never be in a field with a cow at night.
Yeah,
because that's how I avoid aliens.
That's where you get beamed up. You don't get beamed up at home.
Oh gosh. Knock on wood.
I'm scared.
That's hilarious. And some people think that this could just be a way for them to communicate with us, get to know us, and in a really creepy way. But they they present themselves as children because that's kind of more disarming for people.
Yeah.
That's a way for them to get in, I guess.
They're not just like a huge man showing up at your door, just like
a
very tall, intimidating person. They're like, oh, people seem to all get along with kids, so let's just be the smaller
so they're just
people.
using that as a way to kind of get to know people. And that's why all the creepy things happen around them. And maybe that's why we have that sense of dread, because we know something's just not right about them. They're not
It's
human.
not human.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're not human.
Like Uncanny Valley. You know about that?
No.
Like
Another thing I need to add to the list?
Things that like look human, but there's something off, and so our brain knows it's not human. It's in that uncanny valley.
Kind of like the AI?
Kind of, but AI has less of a eerie thing about it. It's like there's been like people doing on like TikTok, they do like uncanny valley makeup where they just like, I don't know, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Show me. I want to see.
It's really freaky.
It's interesting.
It's like there's nothing wrong with them, but your brain, it automatically gets like scared because it's like it's human-like, but that is not a human.
Yeah.
And your brain's like, and freaks out.
Your brain doesn't really know what to do with it. Yeah, and maybe that's what it is. It's like uncanny valley. That's interesting. There are some people who believe that it could just be alien-human hybrids. And so that's why they have the dark eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get too much into it. That's not a rabbit hole I want to fall into too far.
If we
out
run
there
out of
for me.
ideas, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. It's a little too much.
I mean, I've met a couple people that I know. I'm like, you are not from here. When I say here, I mean Earth.
I think Men in Black, like where they dress as humans, like, you know, like the guy who this little tiny alien in like a giant human robot kind of thing.
No, I mean, I would put money.
Could be.
I would put money on that there are some aliens walking around this Earth, and they're just like, "Hi, human," and that's how they act.
Hi, how are ya?
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised. But there have been stories of creatures and supernatural beings with dark eyes in many facets of folklore from many ancient cultures all over time. And they're typically associated with death and misfortune.
Mm-hmm.
One that I saw from an excerpt of a short book by G. Michael Vasey, which is a series called Your Haunted Lives. And this one was on black-eyed children. It's called The Black-Eyed Kids. He believes that they could be some sort of variation of a legend, he says, is told by the ancient Iroquois Indians called Octon. I couldn't find anything actually about them online, and I don't know if it's more of like a spoken tale, like you pass it along with word.
Probably.
But I couldn't find anything like that. If y'all know anything about that, I'm very interested in that.
Me too.
Let us know. But here's a quote from his book. The Iroquois Indians believed in a dark power called the Octon that could take over children and an evil one who would mate with human females to produce black-eyed, chalky-skinned children. These children were killed by the tribe soon after birth and burned to stop them from resurrecting. Children wandering alone in the woods could also be taken over by Octon and would re-emerge with black eyes and pale skin, acting nervously while repeating themselves over and over. Their goal was to destroy the tribe and infect all the people with Octon.
Oh, that's sinister.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah. It freaks me out.
And it's something about like an old tribe, like ancient, like years and years and years of them telling that story. Anytime there is, I believe in everything.
We know.
I think that every like scary or old or ancient tale or anything, it came from something.
Oh, I believe that.
People weren't just pulling that out of their brains going, what if this? No, there was something. Even if it was something small and it spiraled, where did it come from?
Yeah. Oh, I believe that. That's definitely true.
Like,
that's definitely true. And
we
you could get into like folklore and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. There are some theories that say black-eyed children are the spirits of deceased children trying to make contact with our world. But I believe they have to be something far more darker, because I don't think innocent children's spirits would come to you like that. Just the fear that their presence brings to people, that just doesn't jive well with my ideas on spirit.
Mine neither.
They are believed to be omens of ill fortune coming to people who encounter them, and many people report that only prayers and spiritual protection help them out of these situations.
Well, Doug, he came in contact with one and he died.
Very sad. The most plausible story to me, I always save my ideas for the last, is that they must be some kind of evil entity. Some kind of demon of sorts disguised as children, which we've talked about. Demons will disguise themselves as children. And we've heard stories of how demon can only enter with permission. And that's immediately what I thought about when I first heard these stories, is that's a demon. That's kind of where my mind goes anyway. But also the black eyes. The black eyes are like demons' eyes, or are depictions of demons' eyes. So, I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on the existence of black-eyed children, though. Honestly, if I'm being real.
I don't know. I don't want to believe that they're real, but
something part of you,
my deep-rooted fear, just can't let them go.
Yeah. Most of the stories I could find were only anecdotal stories, and mostly on Reddit, which we know it's Reddit. And it's of people's experiences and never anything more. So that's why I'm just not, I'm not going to say they're not real, but I can't say with my chest that I believe it.
These are just fun stories that people make. Well, not fun, but scary stories that people make up.
Yes. I'm on the fence.
What you think.
I'm on the fence, but leaning more towards, yeah. But
well, I don't want to be proven any which way, so.
Same.
Stay on the fence.
We'll read some more stories and you be the judge, I guess.
Okay.
There have been sightings of black-eyed children in England's Cannock Chase. And I thought that was interesting because most of the stories I found were in America.
Yeah.
And there are, here's a couple from England in this same area. On Saturday, 13th of September, my wife and I were walking through Cannock Chase near the Stile Cop with our dog. Once we had entered the woodland and the road was no longer visible, we started to hear the giggling noise of a little girl. To our amazement, a child no taller than 1 meter in height appeared as if out of nowhere further up the path in front of us. We stopped dead in our tracks after noticing her eyes had no color. She stared at us for around 5 minutes before running away into a densely grouped area of trees. My wife wanted to follow her, but I was having none of it. It's that like
you would
motherly instinct. I probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't be in the woods at night anyway.
No, but like if you saw a kid and they were like hee and ran off, you'd be like, no, come back.
I'd be like, this child needs help. That would be my first instinct. Yeah. I don't know that I would follow them, but that would be my first. I'd probably call the police.
Yeah. After I got to my car and I was far away. Be like, yeah, about 50 miles behind me. Yeah, someone might need help. That's crazy.
Oh, God. Okay. So here's another one. Around 2 months ago, my daughter and I were walking through Birches Valley, an area well known for its spectral sightings, when we heard the screams of a young child. I couldn't tell if it was a boy or a girl, but they definitely seemed in distress and sounded very close to us. So we instantly started running towards the noise. We couldn't find the child anywhere, so stopped to catch our breath. That's when I turned around and saw a girl stood behind me, no more than 10 years old, and her hands over her eyes like she was waiting for a birthday cake. I asked if she was okay, and if she had been the one screaming. She then put her arms down by her side and opened her eyes, which is when I saw they were completely black. No iris, no white, nothing. I jumped back and grabbed my daughter. When I looked again, the child was gone. It was strange, really. I knew something was going to happen even before it did. I just had a weird feeling.
Oh.
It was that same kind of
Uneasy.
overwhelming, unease.
That one isn't as scary because she wasn't asking them for something.
Yeah,
she just appeared and disappeared. Those aren't as scary to me. They're scary. But they're not directly like trying to get your attention, trying to get something from you. So that's not as scary.
There have been crimes in and around that place too. So like there are theories that maybe it's just the spirits of the children that have been victim of these crimes. And I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that in there just because it was an interesting take.
Yeah.
Here is another story. After returning home late one evening from the movie theater, a young man in British Columbia believes he had a visit from one of these dark entities. He, of course, was a little spooked after having seen one of the new scary movies that were out around Halloween time. So when he received a knock on his door late that night, his mind immediately went into fear mode. He initially laughed it off, telling himself to chill out and that it was probably nothing. But each move he made closer to the door, the sense of dread he had just grew stronger and stronger within himself. Even with the feelings of impending doom overwhelming him, by the time he reached the door, he still felt compelled to open it. Just this feeling just drove him to it.
Mm-hmm.
His gut screamed at him to turn around and ignore whatever was on the other side. But when the door finally opened, he saw a teenage girl around 16 standing there. She was fairly tall with long blonde hair and bangs almost covering her eyes. She immediately asked in a voice that was confident and commanding, "May I enter the premises?"
Ugh.
The man was taken aback and knew intuitively that no matter the circumstance, she could not come in. She repeated the question, but this time she looked up and all he could see were solid black eyes staring back at him. He was absolutely horrified and slammed the door, running upstairs to his room to get a weapon from his closet.
Uh-huh.
Not being able to sleep that night, he sat up, ignoring the knocks that kept coming from his front door. After a while, the knocking stopped, and as the sun came up, he finally felt it was safe enough for him to check his front porch. He opened the door, and of course, nobody was there. He began to think he had imagined the entire encounter. Just maybe it was
trying to
just
play it off.
Yeah, maybe it was nothing. But when he turned around to walk back into his home, he saw the word "soon" carved into his wooden door. Are you gonna survive this?
I don't even know. Do you move and then burn the house down, or do you burn the house down and then move? Like, that's my only question.
This is the only options you have?
Yeah.
That one got me. That one really got me. That just, like, I will be back.
I'm just envisioning my own door. That's all I'm doing right now is envisioning my own door. And
I'm going to write "soon" on your door. I'm just kidding. I won't do that. You would probably
We will
pass
end
out.
this podcast and we will never speak again. I'm not kidding. I'm not going
to do that. I'm not a prank person either. So here's kind of a similar story. It was Thanksgiving evening in 2015 when Sarah received the knock on her door. She wasn't expecting any visitors as her family had already left just the hour before that, but she figured it must be her neighbor. She opened the door expecting to see the elderly woman who lived next door, but what she found instead were two young boys standing eerily still, not making eye contact with her. As you could predict, after all we've talked about, her stomach immediately dropped and that unexplainable sense of dread washed over her at the sight of these two boys. They told her that it was cold outside and asked if they could come in to warm up. She was hesitant in her response, really not wanting to let them in, and that's when the older boy became persistent, with an air of aggression in his voice. She wanted to slam the door, but something felt like it was keeping her there. Sarah told the boys that she couldn't let them in, and that's when they looked up at her and she noticed their eyes, as black as night and devoid of any emotion. She shut the door, and the boys continued to knock for several minutes, occasionally calling out to her by name to let them into her house. She sat in the dark hoping they would go away, and right after the last hard knock on her door, all the lights in her house came on and her TV came on to a channel just full of static. That was the one and only time she ever encountered these children, but still to this day, a lump forms in her throat every time she hears a knock at her door at night. Oh, and you've got one in your throat now?
Yeah, oh my God.
I was going to imitate them, but I don't want to, like, really freak you out.
I'm just thinking that this was a bad idea to talk about this.
Well, I've only got one more story.
I'm being so serious.
I know you are.
I'm scared. I'm genuinely scared.
Do you want me to stay?
I don't want to take you to your car.
Well, I only have one more story. Okay. We can talk about something light after this.
Okay.
We can talk about Justin Bieber if you want. So in one of the articles I read, someone said that there are apparently a lot of stories that come out of Vermont, which is interesting. If any of you live in Vermont.
What are y'all doing up there?
Let us know if you've ever encountered this, because I found that disturbing.
I feel like Vermont's one of those states that doesn't really exist, like Idaho.
You're naming places I want to visit.
I am like a European person in that it is California, Texas, Florida, New York, and everything else.
Okay.
Because I'm just like, if someone tells me they live in Omaha, Nebraska, I'm like, live where? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, I can't relate, but I'm understanding what you're saying.
Okay. Like Vermont, I'm like, that only exists in movies. Like, oh, I'm going on a business trip to Vermont. I don't know a single person that has gone to Vermont. I mean, I probably do, but we haven't talked about it.
Okay. So an elderly couple was sitting at home watching TV before bed one night when they received a knock on their door. The ominous knock in all of these stories. It was the middle of winter and there was a rough snowstorm blowing outside. So they assumed that whoever was at their door this late at night must have been in some kind of trouble caused by the storm, maybe an accident
Yeah.
or something. So the husband got up and opened their front door and was surprised when he saw 2 children standing under the light of their front porch. They were young, around 8 to 12 years old, with the boy being slightly taller than the little girl. They seemed severely underdressed for how cold it was outside, but they didn't seem bothered by the frigid weather. The children asked if they could come inside their home to wait for their parents to pick them up. Being very kind and worried about the small children, like being left out in this freezing blizzard, they let them into their home immediately.
Mm-mm.
As the children walked into the house, the wife got up to see what was going on and noticed their cat seemed really perturbed by the children. She brushed it off, only thinking of how she could help with these poor kids, because
It's old
they're
people and little kids. Yeah, I get it.
They both had an extremely unnerved feeling as soon as they stepped over the threshold of the front door, though. They couldn't explain it, but within a matter of seconds, something began to feel off about the whole situation, and they were regretting their decision to allow them entry. The wife offered to make the children some hot chocolate while they waited, but the children just kept their heads down and stood in the entryway, not saying a word. The wife walked off to the kitchen anyway, looking for any reason to step away from the situation, and the husband began to question the children. Why were they out so late by themselves? Where were their coats? And how did their parents know where to pick them up?
Yep, I was going to say that.
The children simply repeated that their parents would be there soon to pick them up. As the wife returned with cups in hand, the children looked up for the first time, and that's when she noticed their eyes. Not a sliver of color. They both began feeling ill at the sight of the children. The kids asked to use their restroom, and as soon as they closed the door, all the lights in the house went dark, and the man suddenly got a nosebleed. Not even a minute went by, and the children returned to the entryway, the wife frozen in fear, and told them that their parents were there. As they walked out of the house, the couple noticed a car parked in the driveway that wasn't there when they initially opened the door. It drove off with the kids inside, and the couple barely slept that night.
What?
How did the children get there? And without using their phone, how could the car have known which house to go to? This visit plagued the couple for many years, and not long after the visit, the couple began to experience tragedy after tragedy.
God.
The husband was diagnosed with skin cancer and passed away within months. Their cats began disappearing one by one, and the woman suffered many, many health issues, complications that she'd never had before. Until her death, she told anyone she could about the strange visit in the night by those children with dark black eyes and how it changed her life for the worst forever. That one is giving Alien to me.
Yeah.
Some kind of Men in Black situation. The nosebleeds, like kind of like radiation kind of thing.
Yeah, and then a
The
car
vibe.
coming to pick them up.
Yeah. But that one freaked me out a lot. And that's just one of the horrible things that happen when you let them in.
Oh, don't say that.
I'm sorry.
When you let them in. Oh my god. That's going to be our new tagline. All right, thanks for listening. Don't let them in.
Don't let them in.
Music. Oh god. I'm really scared.
Well, that was our last story, so I'll go ahead and wrap it up with a
Please.
follow-up on Brian Bethel. We started this episode talking about him, and he wrote an article a few years ago as a kind of follow-up to his original encounter because he was being interviewed for a special being run on black-eyed children. All these years, he's been intentional about not talking about the subject and what the internet termed black-eyed children, because he didn't give them that name. The internet did.
He just said what happened.
He said what he said, and the internet took over, as it does. He said that people have reached out to him from time to time to tell him their own stories, and their own encounters with these entities.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees the stories that seem too out there, or the ones that follow his experience to a T, and isn't quick to believe everything, as we all should be.
Yeah.
But every so often, he comes across a story that he says has a more than subtle ring of the same sort of panic and helplessness that he'd felt that many years ago. He's inclined to believe them, and he's inclined to believe that people are still coming across these creatures still to this day. In the suburbs and far out in the country, outside of gas stations and wandering the aisles of 24-hour retailers, banging on doors and appearing in front of unsuspecting victims in dark alleys. After his initial encounter, just like most of the people who have the misfortune of coming into contact with these black-eyed children, Brian says his sleep was disturbed. He couldn't not think about them.
Mm-hmm.
He was overcome with fear that the children would find him and be there in his room waiting for him. He doesn't know what they are or where they came from, but he's certain that whatever they may be, they are definitely predators. I'll leave you with a quote from his most recent article about these dark creatures. As much as I still don't know about what happened that night and why, Here's one thing that I do know. It's a gut feeling, but one that rises to a level of almost certainty. If I had given the spokesman and his friend a ride on that long ago evening, I don't think I would be here to type this now.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry to have put you through so much turmoil.
Thanks. I'm just thinking, which I don't do it now because it's just generally like unsafe. I used to sit in my car for hours. I would.
Yeah, I don't do that.
I don't do that at all anymore because why would I do that? First of all, gas is expensive. Second of all, that's dangerous. No matter where I'm at. I used to pull up to a place and just sit in my car for an hour, maybe 2 sometimes. Sometimes I'd fall asleep just chilling in my car. And I used to do it all the time, especially like freshman year of college. Pull up to like where Ryan lived in his apartment. And I'd sit out in my car in the dark at night just by myself.
Especially not at night. What were you doing?
Just chilling. I'm just sitting there.
Are you going to have agoraphobia, not even having encountered them? Just peripherally?
Yeah. If I'm ever at work and everybody's like, hey, we're going to take lunch at the same time and I'm there alone.
I'm taking lunch too.
I don't feel good.
Well, I don't know what to say to you. You wanted this.
I know I did.
For the record,
I did.
Natalie put this on our list. She said, before we even had a list, we have to talk about black-eyed children.
I did.
So I brought it. I brought it for you.
Oh, thank you. I feel sick to my stomach.
Okay. You want to wrap up then?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just going to rot here.
Okay. Well, I will leave you with that. I hope that y'all aren't as scared as Natalie. Maybe I do. I don't know. Maybe this is what this is all about.
I think I'm being dramatic because I'm just very afraid of them before this even started, and I have the visual in my head, but this is like the sickest I felt. I hate this.
Really?
Yes.
There have been some
The demons, I'm like, ooh, scary. And then I get over it. But this one I'm not going to get over.
I'm sorry. Maybe it's the visual.
Because what do they want?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll never know. Hopefully.
I hope not.
Hopefully we'll never know.
We will never know.
But we appreciate you taking the time to listen with us, get scared with us. Don't forget to rate and review if you're listening on podcast. We'd love to hear what you think. Give us a 5-star review and let us know what you think of this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, leave us a comment. What do you think black-eyed children are? Are you in the alien camp? Are you in the demonic camp? Let us know. We'd love to hear it. Share if you feel compelled to do so. And follow us on Instagram or Facebook if you're interested at Ghosteas Pod. We kind of post shorts and little tidbits about our episodes there. So, and we'll, that's where we can talk to. So anyway, if you have a creepy or supernatural encounter of your own, maybe with black-eyed children, maybe with something else, maybe an alien, let us know. You can send us a DM or you can email us at ghostiespod@gmail.com. We'd love to put your story in a future episode or just read it for ourselves. We're so excited to be going on this adventure with you guys, and we will see you next Monday.
Bye.